Hey, good morning, everybody. Good morning. Welcome to episode 17 of the Yes and Brand Show. I'm Kathy Klotz-Guest, and it's Friday. Yay! Hope you're doing fantastic. This is our weekly show where we discuss all things under the Yes and umbrella. Yes and is that spirit of improv that allows us to move forward, collaborate, embrace whatever comes our way. It's the true celebration of improvisation, which is how we create scenes on a stage. But it's also, I believe, an attitude for customer service, for marketing, for branding, for storytelling. And it's the focus through which I do a lot of my work in storytelling, in innovation, and all these different things. It's the focus of the lens that I see the world through. So yes, I do storytelling. Yes, I do innovation work and branding and all those things. But it really is that sort of encapsulation of the spirit of through which I approach it and through which I believe marketing should be approached at any company. So today, I want to talk about culture and storytelling and breaking the fourth wall. But before I do that, I just want to give a shout out to the NASDAQ Entrepreneurial Center. I spoke there last night. I had a great old time. We had like 100 people. It was fantastic. And just a lot of fun, just a heck of a lot of fun. So thank you, San Francisco. Thank you, everybody. As we get more people on here, I hope you'll, when you kind of come on, give me a shout out so I know you're here. We did start a few minutes late. I think everybody and their brother is trying to, and sister, and their dogs are trying to access Be Live at the same time. And we had a little bit of a hiccup with Be Live being not responding quickly, but we finally got up and running. We're here. And I'll talk a little bit about the topic, and then I'll open it up for questions. Sometimes people will jump on and just ask a lot of questions, and that's fantastic. And sometimes people just want to watch. Some people like to watch, and we don't judge. That's perfectly okay. I used to do just to Ask Kathy Anything, and just the whole amount of time would be Ask Kathy Anything. But what I found is if I have a topic that I want to talk a little bit about, it sort of jumpstarts a lot of the conversation. So we're going to do that. Next week on Yes and Brand, we're back with guests. I'm going to bring you more storytelling guests. Not just storytelling, we're going to bring innovators, people who are doing innovation work. My friend Sandy Carter is going to come on. My friend Robert Rose is going to come on. We're going to talk about content and storytelling. So my goal is to really bring people from all these different disciplines. And the common theme is really, how are you yes-anding and using that improvisational attitude to embrace change in your organization and to do the work you do? And that's kind of comes from my premise in the world, which is that we are all improvisers in the world of life. On the stage of life and business, we're all improvisers. So that's what we do. So, all right. I want to talk a little bit about the topic. I recognize that people will join later, and also that we will get people who will watch this later after the fact. So fantastic. All right. For those of you who are new, welcome. Those of you who know me, welcome back. Again, I'm Kathy Klotz-Guest. I'm the author of Stop Boring Me. What? Stop Boring Me. And it's really a book it's about 200 and some pages. The first half of the book is all storytelling and how kind of improv approaches can really help us be better storytellers and why it matters. And then the second half of the book is a bunch of exercises, almost 24 exercises that will help get your brain primed to come up with new ideas for stories, new ideas for products, services, anything. You can apply, this stuff is very expansive, and you can apply it to almost anything. So that's really what that book is about. If you're on watching, let me know. Give me a shout out. Love to hear from you. And so the topic really quickly that I just want to introduce, and then certainly love to take questions from people as they kind of come in and out on this Friday morning, is really the issue of storytelling culture. Hey, Stephen. Hey. Storytelling culture and what I call breaking the fourth wall. So I've been talking about this concept of breaking the fourth wall for a while now, and I've written a bunch of posts on it. I talk about it in the book, and I wrote a piece for Convince and Convert, and they published it, and they said it inspired them to kind of think about video differently, and that's a great thing, and I'm grateful that they gave a shout out. Breaking the fourth wall is a term in performance that means that that wall between you and the audience comes down. So basically, it means that the actors on a stage, for example, or maybe in a TV, start talking to the audience at home. And they're not talking to each other, but they're talking to the audience, and the audience talks back. And then the audience starts talking to each other. So everybody's talking to everybody else. And I think that's how we have to think about marketing today, is that we are no longer in this world where it's just one-way communications, and it's never been that. But there's no sound wall. Everything that you do as a company leaks out to the outside, and in turn affects everything you do internally. There's no sound wall. There's no sound wall. So everything is porous. We have porous borders today in companies, and that means everybody knows what's going on, and we need to act like it. But this is why it's a very good thing. Because when you take down that wall, when you break that fourth wall, and you allow your customers in and allow them to create content for you, to give you ideas, here's what's going to happen. They're going to create better content for you. Look at GoPro. They're going to help you innovate new product ideas. Look at GE and Procter & Gamble. Some percent every year of GE's revenues come from products and product ideas that were suggested by customers and their audience, the people that follow them online. So think about it this way. You have a whole army of champions ready to tell your story. Take that story, that brand story that they love and feel a part of and connected to. They've adopted it as their own story. They see themselves in it, and they're going to go create content on your behalf and share it. Why wouldn't you want that? That's a fantastic thing. The same is true of anything. It's you want people to take that story and make it their own and champion you, but they're really championing themselves. So you're not so much even creating a story, you're creating a movement. Look at Patagonia. Man crates. I told my friend Park about Park Hal over at Business of Story. I told him about man crates, and he was like, "Oh my God, Kathy, this is great." And they have a whole story around gifts for men, and they make you feel part of that experience. So when you take down that fourth wall, you are empowering people on your behalf to champion and create for you, to come up with product ideas, content ideas. It will make you better. It will scale your content. You don't have to do everything. You don't want to do everything because your audience will come up with better ways of creating content than you probably could think of. And it will be more viral because people share what they create. So when you think about how to make your marketing better, how to make it go faster, how to have legs, how to have some mobility, and how to have some momentum, and really get that dollar working for you and scaling. If you don't have tons of resources, how can I ask my customers and invite them to create content for me, with me, collaboratively with me, on my behalf? How can I get them to tell me what they want me to build? Because now I've vetted my product research. They're telling me what to build, and it reduces my product risk. All these things are amazing things when we take that sound wall down. So I wrote this piece saying that the last barrier, I think the final frontier, not Star Trek, the final frontier, and I think storytelling is breaking that fourth wall. And here's how it's connected to culture. You can't just all of a sudden break the fourth wall. It doesn't work like that. You have to have an open culture. You've got to have an open culture. This is really, really super important. Cultures that are closed can't break the fourth wall with credibility. They're afraid to. So the question then becomes is, all of this stuff works in an ecosystem. It does. And I've written a couple pieces about culture and storytelling, how you create a storytelling culture. And one of the things that happens is, with cultures that are really credible, is that everybody has stewardship of the story. It's not marketing's job to guard the story. In fact, the story isn't even a marketing function. Storytelling is an organizational capability. And it starts with corporate values. Are we open as a culture? Do we value people? Do we value our employees? Do we value our customers? Do we value partners? So ask yourself, what kind of culture are you building? Is the culture credible? Does it value people? What stories are being told internally that reflect that? Before you worry about the stories that you're telling externally, ask yourself, what's our organizational story, and what do employees believe? What are the stories that they're telling? Because the stories that they're telling are indicative of the kind of culture they say you have, not what's written on some kind of placard in your lobby, but it's what your employees believe. And that matters because you will never have great marketing storytelling, even if you break that fourth wall, if the internal storytelling that employees buy into and believe point to something really not healthy, not great. So that starts there. You have to understand that. And while you may be a small business, and Stephen, you say you're an employee of one, you are, but sometimes your clients might not be. And so understanding if they've got employees and how that exactly the stories that you tell about what kind of horrible boss you are. It's like, God, I'm such a bad boss to myself. Those kinds of things matter. But even if you're just an army of one, it matters because stories reflect your values. So before you start worrying about what kinds of stories that you're going to tell everybody else in marketing, you got to start with your values. What do you believe? You are terrific, Stephen. I love that. You have to start with what do you believe? Everything I talk about in my business starts with what does Kathy believe? What does she hold dear? What are some values? I care about people. I care in treating them with respect. I care that people unleash their best creative selves. I believe in the power of storytelling. I believe in a culture that's open. I believe that everybody has stewardship over the story. It's not a marketing function. It's a larger organizational value-driven capability. And that everybody has a place in that story. And so the story is owned. It might be championed by marketing, but make no mistake, that is owned by everybody, including all your employees, because they are the biggest brand champions. So everything I do starts with these beliefs, and there's consistency there. So when you start thinking about the kinds of stories that you're telling, don't just tell stories that you think are going to attract people. Start with what you believe. What do you believe? What stories? Why did you start your business? What motivated you to do the things that you do? What organizational values do you hold dear that you won't compromise? What is personal to you? I also, as everybody knows, I don't make any bones about the fact that I got 20 years in comedy. Yes, I'm an MBA. I've run marketing, but I got a background in comedy. Why wouldn't I use it? Because humor is human. Humor is human. It's one of the most human devices for connecting with audiences. Why wouldn't I? That's crazy. I studied lots of places, spent many years doing stage work. Why would I not embrace that? So I believe in the power of humor. So you'll never hear me ever not use it or, put it in the background. It's on the front and on the vanguard of everything that I do because it's a deeply held value and belief. So that should start there. That drives everything. Culture drives everything. There's a saying, and I don't know who started it. I don't know where it started. I'll have to Google it. But that culture eats strategy for breakfast. I think lunch and dinner. And I think that's true. So your culture is going to drive everything. And I know if you're a culture, employee number of one, it still matters because all the stories that you tell in the world reflect what you believe. Every single blog post you do, every campaign you do reflects what you believe. So the question to ask yourself isn't just, should I write about what's popular? It's where's the intersection of trending topics to what I believe? Can I connect it back to my culture? So for me, how do I tie into topics that are relevant? And how do I connect it back to what I believe in the world about humor, about people, about being human? In 2009, I started my company, Keeping It Human. And now everybody's talking about it. Maybe I was a little bit of a bleeding edge adopter. I was on the early side of that. But I really deeply felt that that is a value. And it goes through everything that I do. Hey, Katerina, welcome, welcome, welcome. So these are things that are deeply held. So before you get too far afield of your stories and what you're going to tell, don't see your stories as a marketing exercise. It's not even a branding exercise. And I will debate people on this, and this is just my point of view. Yes, storytelling is part of the brand, and we talk about brand and marketing storytelling today. But again, storytelling starts with your own company, why you do what you do, what values you hold, why you believe what you believe. If you started a travel company, maybe travel is part of being a well-rounded person and education and liberation of your soul and your spirit. It's not about travel. If you started a wine company, I know we got Katerina on here. Why did you start that? What is that about? What are the values that started you on that process of starting that company? That's the right way to think about storytelling. So, in anything that you do, the question is how does that story speak to my culture. And my culture, my values, what I hold dear, what I won't compromise on, my deepest held beliefs. That's really, really probably the springboard for everybody's best stories. Start there. That's the best place to start because that's where it's going to be rooted in authenticity. Everybody talks about authenticity, but you can't get there if it's not rooted in a deeply held value. So everything I talk about is something I will defend, I will debate, because I really passionately believe in it. And it's not worth doing. For me, it's not worth doing if I don't believe in it. And it's not worth doing for you if you don't believe in it. When I wrote Stop Boring Me, and I wrote it all about sort of the creative power and innovative power of improv, it's because I've been doing it for so many years that I've seen it and I believe in it. And it's in every part of my being, in my soul. I believe it. I've seen it. I've lived it. And I know in my heart of hearts that it can help so many people and it can help them be more creative. And I really believe in that message, or I would not put my name on it. And that's where it starts for everybody. So think about culture and the stories you're telling, and do they advance? Does everything you do those stories advance your culture? Are they consistent with your culture? Because if they don't, if you start telling stories that don't advance your culture, don't support your culture, aren't consistent with your values, that's where we have a disconnect. So always use your culture as that. It's a very interesting ecosystem. And as I say, I know there's a lot of storytellers out there who have maybe some similar or dissenting thoughts. That's okay. Everyone has a right to an opinion, and I love that. I embrace that. For me, storytelling is that organizational value thing. Then you get to the marketing stories. But you can't get to the marketing stories without having that culture. And if you have a culture that's open, I really encourage you to break that fourth wall. For me, I like to talk to people. I like it when they talk back. I don't mind when they disagree with me. As long as we're respectful about it, I love a spirited debate. I'm all good with that. So I believe in taking down that fourth wall in everything that I do. And improv, I think in my 20 years of doing stage work, has led me to this place of being okay with that. I involve my audience. The audience gives me suggestions. I create something with my fellow improvisers on the stage. So improv is a very open, breaking the fourth wall kind of art and performance because we are involving the audience. And I think that's the right way to think about marketing, and that's the future of marketing. So make sure you think about where you should evolve. How can you evolve? Ask yourself a couple things. Is it clear that I'm living my values in all my stories? How am I attracting people to help share those stories? Am I really breaking down the fourth wall? And that's why I love video. I love talking to you guys. You guys are great. And I love all your comments and questions, because you are living proof that this does work when you take down that fourth wall and you just have a human conversation, right? And even if you disagree with me, Matt, hey, Matt, I love Matt. Matt cracks me up. And that's okay. The fourth wall is not about, when you take that down, it's not about having a kumbaya moment necessarily where everybody agrees with you. Sometimes your audience will say, hey, no, have you thought about this? That's the best part of it, is that they're talking to you and they're telling you directly. That's a beautiful thing. Then you know what to do differently. So I think video, and that's why I believe everybody should be doing live video. Live video, I think, really exemplifies taking down the fourth wall and breaking that fourth wall with your audience. You don't have to show up and be perfect. Forget perfection. It doesn't exist. Perfection, like certain shades of blonde, does not exist in the natural world, people. I know. I'm sorry to break it to you. Except my color blonde. That's perfectly natural. Perfectly natural. But it's perfect doesn't exist. People don't want it. Audiences don't want perfect. It's alienating because nobody's perfect. What they want is you to show up and care and be real. And I think the best breaking the fourth wall that I've ever had is just these kinds of conversations. And when people join and tell me what's percolating for them, I get excited and I go, wow, okay, this is cool. Thanks, Katerina. Yeah, right? It gives you a real face. It does. I think people relate to real people, and this brand wall that we've built, it's like when you hide behind a logo and there's a catastrophe like Pepsi and there's no human being at Pepsi. It's just Pepsi, the brand, deflecting comments. It's very impersonal and it's horrible. I want to know a real person at that company. And breaking that fourth wall means you're not hiding behind your logo. You're not hiding behind the brand. there's a human being that's having real conversations, and there's a face. I think that's why we're seeing the rise of influencers that are associated with big brands, because there's a human face to that brand. And we want to see it. We want to, in all its imperfection, in all its getting up in the morning before people are caffeinated and what their hair looks like at 5 in the morning. But we want to see real. So we don't need the fairy tale. We don't need the perfection. And that's what breaking that fourth wall really is. So it takes a lot for big brands, I think, because they're scared of kind of letting go and letting people in. But it's already happening. You know, your audience is talking to each other. So they're not talking to each other all the time. So we can pretend that that wall isn't porous, but it is. So again, there is no sound wall anymore. So you might as well engage and be on the front of it and show up and be real and evolve. So some of your stuff maybe is thought out, but it's okay to do some improvised live video and show up and learn together with your audience. So if you're not doing live video, and I know it can be a little scary, I really encourage you to just start small, but start somewhere. I think you'll be pleased at the results. People just want to see a real human being, right? So Matt, you're saying, just to validate, after 12 years and tons of empirical evidence, there's no question that stories are the most successful means of changing culture. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, you want to change your culture. I think you change your stories, but they're symbiotic, right? And here's where I get my full-on nerd. I double down on my nerddom. Like, I'm visibly nerdy from the space station. But it's true, Matt, you're right. I mean, you want to change culture, change the stories, but the stories have to be based on what people believe is real. It has to be real. And I'll tell you a story. So I wrote this post up a few years ago and it got shared a lot. People really resonated with it. Went great, JS. Hey, JS. It was really fun. So here's a story. So years ago, I worked for a high-tech company and I was in marketing. And I knew that the culture was in trouble because what ended up happening was culture is a barometer of organizational health. You can track this. You can track. It's predictive. You can tell a culture is in trouble by the stories that employees are repeating and believing. And boy, if they're telling stories that are not good, your culture is in trouble. I mean, everybody from Enron to you name it. So I worked at a company called Silicon Graphics many years ago. It was a Wall Street darling in Silicon Valley, and I worked in marketing. So let me tell you what happened. I knew the company was in trouble because the stories changed. The stories started out, hey, we care about employees. We love our employees. And I remember towards the end, it changed. A whole new management team came in, and I believe it was our COO at that time, and I won't name him. Our chief operating officer got up at an all hands and he said, you know what? Here's the deal. We can be penguins or we can be elephants. Elephants, when one of their pack gets sick, they will circle that elephant and they will nurture it back to health. They won't abandon one of their own. And penguins, when a penguin gets sick, the pack abandons it. Sometimes they will peck that penguin to death because they see it as infirm and holding the pack back. And then that COO stood at our all hands and he looked at all the employees and said, never forget, people, we're penguins. We're penguins. And he said it with this proud look on his face. And I scanned that room, and I'll never forget that moment. Me and my colleagues, we looked at each other in horror because he basically just communicated to us that we were replaceable. We were disposable, that we were penguins, not pachyderms. We were not elephants. He didn't give a shit about us. And that, my friends, was the beginning of the end. And it wasn't long after that SGI blew up. Was it a shock to me? Absolutely not. As a storyteller my whole life in marketing, I knew that when the stories had changed and the stories became about screw the competition, screw our customers, screw our employees, that we were all in trouble. So make no mistake that stories are a barometer of organizational health. And John's right. You want to change the organization, you change the stories. But the stories have to be based on credible value. There's no way at SGI that people would have embraced any kind of storytelling bullshit that the management would have given them, not when they were basically told that they were disposable. So you have a credibility gap. So the stories that you tell as a company have to be based on living, breathing values that you put into practice. And that's why stories are so powerful. And Matt, you're totally right. You want to change your culture, you got to change your stories. You got to be mindful of the stories. Forget about the marketing stories. What are the stories that your employees are telling? Because that is the real predictive analytics. That is the correlating thing that can predict a rise and fall in culture. So when SGI imploded, was it a shock to me and to a lot of people when I was working there? Absolutely not. It predicted, I believe, the demise of values. And when you have a demise of human values, did it happen with Enron? Absolutely. I've written about it. I've talked about it. It goes hand in hand. So culture matters. That's my long thing. I could tell you so many different stories, and you probably have your own. But yes, JS, I was at Silicon Graphics, SGI, and that's what happened. That's the truth. And it was not a shock to those of us who were there. Hey, John Burkhart, you're on your scooter. Oh my goodness. I love that you're on your scooter and that I'm in your ears. And I love that you're cool and hip and you're on a scooter. So there you go. Matt, I'm going to read this. This is great. I'm going to try to show it, but it's really long. A woman executive shows up at an important meeting the day after giving birth. There are two potential directions this will go. Stories that will shape employee behavior for years to come. The CEO looks aghast and says, "Get the hell out of here. Be with your family. We've got your back." Or, "Wow, now that's what I call dedication." Yeah, exactly. And the employees are all waiting to see what that executive is going to do. Because if the executive says, "Hey, wow, that's dedication," the message that a lot of those employees are going to get is that it's not important. Family's not important. And that give up your right to having a family. That's not something that should be lauded. Actually, I think that's something we should all be wary of, especially as a woman who's given birth. Exactly. In fact, after I had my son, I got a call from the CEO. I was a senior director of marketing at a company, and the CEO called me and said, "So when are you coming back to work?" And I said, "Well, I hadn't planned on coming back in 6 weeks." And he goes, "Well, I need you in Tokyo. I'm doing a media tour." And, I helped the CEO with talking points and media relations and how to tell stories about the company. And he trusted me, but he put pressure on me to come back. Like the week after I had my son. And I said to him, I had a baby, a human baby, not a football. So no, I'm not coming back. So, yeah. So I love that story, Matt, because stories matter. Stories so matter. And everything you do is a story. And I think that's the really important part, is that your employees are watching everything you do as executives, everything you say. And even if you don't say it, but the actions you take are indicating what you value. And if there's any disconnect between what you're saying and what your values on the placard are in the lobby, we know what people believe. And I always laugh because it was well known that HBR did a really great expose after Enron imploded, because a lot of the MBAs, Jeffrey Skilling, a lot of these people were Harvard MBAs. And the Harvard Business Review, they did this really interesting thing. And you'd go into the lobby of Enron and they would have the placards of, "We care about people, customer service. People are number one to us." But those are just like mug quotations, right? Dilbert was born on the backs of this bullshit, right? And it wasn't real. But one of the things that article talked about, which pointed, excuse me, I'm getting over a little something. The article pointed to something very predictive, is that in the months and months before Enron blew up, emails had been circulated where Enron executives were making fun of their customers. "Our customers are suckers, ha, ha, ha." And that the jokes that were being told around the water cooler at the company by the executives at the all hands disrespected customers. So there you go, predictive analytics. The stories that were told were so disturbing that, and there were piles and piles of emails. It predicted the cultural implosion. So again, the stories that employees believe and are telling, forget about what the marketers are doing with customers. What the stories that are happening internally to a company and that employees believe will predict the organizational health of any company. And it just was fascinating. I was reading this article and it just blew my mind that people would do that, but that's what happened. And now we know. So pay close attention to these stories and the executives and what they're saying, because if you want to know if a company's going to blow up and you want a head start to run out of there, get the hell out of there, But it's, so, it's really important to pay attention to these things. I've lived it. I've been there. I've advised executives. And sometimes they don't listen, but this always happens. It's very predictive. So, Matt, sadly, 80% of employees I assess say their CEO would answer the way you expect. Yeah, I don't doubt it. I'm going to show that. That's a great comment. Matt. Yeah, it's really sad to me. It's really sad to me. I think people want their executives to stand up and fight for the values, but that's just it, right? The values on the wall don't mean anything. What are you going to do when you've got an employee in that situation? Are you going to listen? It's really super important. We got to do these things. Hey, Manuel, hola, ¿cómo estás? Otra vez, por 2 días. Good to see you. Good to see you, my friend. Good to see you. John Burkhart, my buddy over in the UK, just prepping for your ride. Not cool, not hip, kick scooter. You are a big kid, and that's cool. Loving some KKG. I'm missing you, my friend. I miss your face. John is my funny brother from another mother. We're both blonde. I suppose we really haven't really been in the same room at the same time. So I don't know. Maybe we're fraternal twins separated at birth. I don't know. Maybe I'm the evil one because he's a nice guy. I'm probably the evil one. All right. We know that. We know that I would be the evil one. I'm the mischief. All right. Awesome. I love hearing you. I love seeing your face, John. All right. Love it. Matt, what you got going on with whoops. Uh-oh. We're not trying to end the broadcast. What did it do? All right. I clicked something. I'm having a moment here. All right. Mind meld. I use the Enron 61-page employee manual as an example of the best written doc and values I've ever seen. And it's true. Of course, when I tell the audience whose manual it was, yep, I'm so with you. Oh my God. Yeah. No, when I have an MBA. I did all that, ran marketing, 20 years of stage comedy. I understand the mentality of companies, and I shared that. I used to teach a business marketing classes at Berkeley, at UC Berkeley. I know, I'm a nerd. And I used to use the Enron employee manual and these joke docs. And I'd share them with the class as an example of culture. And people were always horrified that this actually went on. And I think the real wake-up call is this stuff happens. And if this is the kind of stuff that's happening in your culture, run. Like literally get out of the culture because it's going to blow. And shit splatters. It's going to blow, as it should. I think it's Darwinian. To your point, Matt, I'm so with you. It's Darwinian, and it should. When you see a culture in trouble, and more importantly, you see that the executives don't care, and in fact, the executives are encouraging the bad behavior. We could name a lot of companies right now. I could name them on one hand right now. When we see that, that's a real crisis. That's a real crisis that you have. Forget marketing. It's not a marketing exercise. It's a fundamental disconnect in values and human cultural values. And that's why I say storytelling goes hand in hand with culture. You can't separate the two. And I'm speaking at a conference in Switzerland this summer. I'm going to be in Switzerland talking about this very thing. And just as a storyteller and as somebody who has seen sort of the cultural part of storytelling and what that means, it's a big thing. So thank you, Matt, for bringing that up. And I'm so with you. I mean, God, I laugh. I mean, so when I deal with companies where everything's a mug quotation or a T-shirt, I'm like, oh boy. Let's see those values in practice. I don't want the mug. I don't need the Dilbert quotable. I don't need that. Show me the credible signs that your values are being lived by your stories. And what are the stories? I don't even have to interview the executives. I don't have to. If I interview the employees and they tell me what stories are going around, I already know what they think. I already know what the culture is. I already know how long that culture has to live. So anyway, thanks, Matt, for that. Have a great weekend. I'm so glad you popped in. Come on by next time. Oh my God, yes. Wells Fargo. I know you got to run. Oh, I love seeing your happy face too. Thank you for the comment. Thank you. Thank you. Yes, Wells Fargo is another example. Oh boy. And I think again, it is Darwinian. I think companies that their values are all over the map try to fix it with campaigns, but we know better. And they try to fix an organizational issue with a marketing campaign, but that's not where the boo-boo is. It's kind of like putting a Band-Aid on a head hemorrhage. You're squirting blood out. Here, let me put this little Band-Aid right here on your hemorrhage. That doesn't work. It doesn't work. You got to fix the organizational values part of it. That's why I say you really got to start there. So thanks, Matt, for coming by. Thank you, thank you, thank you. This is awesome. I could talk about this stuff all day. It's important to me. I'm so glad it's important to all of you. Who else we got here? I think JS, I don't know if you're still there. Thank you. Thank you. I had a great time last night. It went really, really, really well. Had a lot of fun. I spoke, for those of you who just joined me, I spoke at the NASDAQ Entrepreneur Center last night. And I had a bunch of entrepreneurs and businesses. And we talked about using improv to innovate different ideas. And it was just a lot of fun. I had a great old time. Yeah, a lot of fun. A lot of fun, and wine was had by all. All right, everybody. John, so good to see you. Lisa, did I see you pop in and out? I think I saw Lisa, but I don't see her in my comment stream. So it could just be that, Facebook is doing what Facebook is going to do. Manuel, so good to see you. I'm so glad you stopped by. Stephen, it was so great to see you in the stream. Stephen Northover, love, love, love seeing you, buddy. All right, everybody, if you got more questions, I'll stick around for a minute, but that's really all I wanted to talk about. I really just can't emphasize enough. Look at your culture. Don't worry about the marketing stories for now. Look at your culture. Sweat the big stuff. Care about the culture first, and then everything will flow from that. Stephen, all right, my friend. If you got any more questions, people, I will happily take it. But if we got no more questions, I'm so glad you stuck around. I'm so honored that you guys dropped in on the Yes Ann Brand Show. Next week, we're going to talk more about storytelling. I'm going to have Carla Johnson on, and we're going to chat. And then on May 5th, it's Cinco de Mayo, Cinco de Margarito. And we're going to hang out with Robert Rose, one of my favorite storytellers and content people. All right, everybody. Have a wonderful, wonderful weekend. Keep it human. I'm keeping it human too. All right. Take care, everybody.